What's up? Welcome back to my channel, or for the first time if you're new, I'm Sylvan, and today I'm going to be reacting to Apothecary Diaries, Season 2, Episode 20. We're moving along pretty quick here. Things were pretty tense at the end of last episode. I imagine we'll probably come straight back to that, but who knows what exactly will happen. So feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoy the video, leave a comment on your thoughts, and let's get into this. I'm very curious to see how things will go here, because... oh god, I'm forgetting her name. The lady from the end of last episode. She feels very much like the first real threat of a character in this location, of this random town. Because though prior to this arc, Suirei very much was, I feel like, a major threat, she doesn't feel like it anymore, really. She's a bit too casual, in the circumstances, I feel like, for that. She might be able to tap into it again at some point, but I don't think that's the direction they're taking her character, necessarily. I'm very curious to learn more about, that woman, though. It's been a minute since we've had any kind of real antagonist figure, and at the very least, from her first impression, that seems like what she is. I always think that's going to be where the opening ends, just like from the pace of it, but it keeps going. Not that I'm complaining. I really like the end of that. Yep, okay, straight to here. Still has the sword in hand. Oh, I didn't realize Suirei was here. Oh, wow. Ah, okay. Uh, Shenmei, right, okay. Hmm. Oh? Oh. Yeah. Jesus Christ. What the fuck? Fun! Yeah. Oh. Ah. Okay, that's a way to take it. Oh. Interesting. A gambit of sorts. Huh. Lowland slash Shisui is certainly protecting Mao Mao. The Stronghold, okay. Huh. Yep. Stated outright now. Yeah. True. Yeah. Very different person. Hmm. I have a feeling that's the kind of person she wants to be, though, where the Lowland identity is who she has to be due to her, like, family. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. No wonder she's treating her poorly. Not that it's justified, but okay. Oh. Oh, wow. Ah. Oh, fuck. Yeah, okay, huh. That's all it takes in this kind of society, unfortunately. Yeah. Mm-hmm. At the very least, someone in this family. Hmm. Nope. Yep. He's something more he's been trying to tell you. Hmm. Has to have enough influence and power. Yeah. Is she gonna just piece it together here? Hmm. Yeah. Finally accepting it? Yep. And you brushed him off. Everything's coming together. God damn it. God damn it, Mau Mau. Oh. Oh, are they gonna get snowed into the Stronghold? Yeah. Very good question. Yeah. But you are part of it. Yeah, she seems very dangerous. Truly the closest she's ever gotten to being executed. Yeah, you're not surviving an escape. Wouldn't be surprising. Oh my god, the politics exit her brain the moment there's just any kind of knowledge to be learned. Hmm. Hmm. Oh. Ah. Yeah. Very much so. That's how war is, unfortunately. Probably not. Sort of hard to do that. Oh. Hmm. All of the learned experiences of an abusive mother. She couldn't accept it with Suire. No matter how controlling and abusive, she is not infallible. Hmm. God, that's fucking beautiful, despite how horrible everything we're talking about is. Okay. Hmm. Yeah, okay. By tomorrow. Alright, she does not have a lot of time. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I wonder who it could be. Alright, the kids. Yeah, there were a few. Oh. Yeah. I think that's the best answer here. Hmm. Okay. Hmm. Now back to the rear palace. All right. Hmm. Oh, wow. Okay. They're honing in even if they don't realize it fully. Yep. Hmm. All right. Oh no, what's gonna happen? Hmm? Yeah, really is. Hmm. Yep. So what are you gonna do about it? Yeah. Understandable that he's angry. There it is. Okay. Yep. Yeah. Things are getting serious. You can't always just sit back and pretend that you can have this secondary life. What's your answer, Jinshi? Oh. This is an interesting gathering of characters. Yeah, neither did I. Yeah, it was just a shouting match of sorts. Hmm? The one person who can get through to Lacan. Oh, wow. Very dramatic. Yo. Oh, and Lahan was ready as well. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Nope. Yeah. This is war. Moon Prince. Kazuigetsu was the name, I believe. Wow, okay. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. We're going to war. This episode is so fucking good. There is so much here. It's the culmination of so many things. Many of them are things we've already realized and recognized and acknowledged are coming, but it's still so satisfying to see them happen. We have the confirmation of Laolin and Shisui being the same person as explicitly as physically possible. We have direct confirmation of who Suirei is and her position in all of this. We have, at the end of the episode, Jinchi being forced to step up and take on his true identity for a purpose, one that, even if he does not directly realize it, will lead to, hopefully, the saving of Mao Mao. And all of this is just encapsulated in the fact that this is the beginning of the real conflict and rebellion of the Shi clan, which we have been building up to since, what, halfway through the first season? Around there is when we first had our proper realization that something was up. This has been the underlying plot since essentially the start of the show. So many of the individual schemes and plots that have happened have all been tied into this one thing, it would seem. And so for us to finally have everything come to a head and begin to actually be in motion is insane. But to focus in on the actual details within the episode, there is, as I have stated, some very juicy stuff here. The first one I want to touch on is Lolin, or Shisui. In the context of this, I'm going to call her Lolin because it seems that that is her actual name, where Shisui was her false identity. But Lolin is the daughter of an abusive mother. Something that we had the hintings of in last episode, with her talking to Mao Mao about how she had to be perfect at everything, essentially. And in this episode, we get it much more clearly. About halfway through the episode, we have this sort of flashback of various points in Lolin's life, where she very quickly learned as a child that she is a puppet of her mother. That is what she must do to stay safe and not get hurt. When her mother laughs, she laughs. When her mother is angry, she gets angry. When she is doing horrible things, beating people, things like that, that is when she does nothing. It is almost archetypal behavior of a child to an abusive parent. You do what they want so that they do not harm you unnecessarily. That is not good by any means, but it makes sense in a lot of ways nonetheless why that is the pattern that comes into play. As long as you do everything that she says, you will not be the subject of her ire. That is the hope, the belief. And furthermore, the hope is that she will not get worse over time. That doing this, at the very least, will make sure that things don't get worse. Lolan specifically describes it as the ugliness getting worse and hoping that it won't, which I believe is a very fitting piece of terminology for Shenmei for a variety of reasons that I'll get to once I talk about her more. But Lolan begins to realize as she grows up, no, she is just getting worse. Her mother does get uglier in all the ways that that can be implied. Being her puppet, doing everything she wants, will not make things better. In fact, if anything, it will enable her. Not to victim blame in any way. Functionally speaking, there is very little that the child of an abusive parent can do to stop the abusive parent. It really needs outside help. But we see that Lolan finally understands that that was wrong, that will not work. Things will get worse when we are seeing a flashback of her watching her mother beat Suirei. Whether it was this exact moment that led her to this realization or not, it shows very fittingly how much it seems that Lolan cares about Suirei. It seems she is not just fearing for herself, but also wishing that things would just get better in general for her and her half-sister. And when she sees that things are only getting worse for Suirei, she seems to decide, I will do my best to placate my mother, but rather than doing everything she wants, I will do the best I can in my position to essentially damage control around her. We don't get a ton of examples of that, but we do see a bit of it at the beginning of the episode. Lolan is willing to step forward when Mao Mao has been caught by Shenmei, and Shenmei is deciding what to do with her. Lolan is willing to step forward and lie wholeheartedly directly to her mother to save Mao Mao's life, no matter how temporarily. She hasn't broken free from her mother's control. She is still doing what her mother wants at the end of the day, but she is doing what she can to protect the people around her. But within this, there is also the fact that she has her other identity. She has the Shisui identity, one that it seems like whenever she can, she embodies. It's one thing for her to take on that servant girl identity when out in the rear palace, but it's another that she has been in the town just in her Shisui identity rather than her Lolan one. It speaks to me that the Shisui identity is, as I sort of mentioned in the episode itself, the identity that she wished she could live. She wishes that she could be the normal girl who can follow her interests and do what she wants and be happy and have friends. But that is not her true position. She is part of this major family, part of this abusive family, part of this scheming family that is doing things that she does not necessarily agree with, but goes along with because she does not have a choice as far as she can tell. It's hard to say how actually loyal to her family she is, but at the very least I can say, I think, that at the very least, even if she has no belief in what they were actually doing with the scheme of putting her in the rear palace, I have a feeling she jumped at the opportunity to be able to be the Shisui identity once she got that chance. I don't think that that part of her is a lie. It's an interesting mirroring of sorts, seeing as though Lolan is her quote-unquote true identity, the one that holds all of her titles and influence and power and is on paper who she really is. We have as proof in the backstory flashbacks of her that she was wearing a mask that entire time. She was doing what she could to be what her mother wanted out of fear. So I think, though Shisui as an identity is technically speaking the false identity she's using to get into the rear palace and gather info and stuff, or at least was, the way she acts in that time is who she truly is, I think. Which actually, in an interesting way, mirrors Jinshi of all people. Jinshi is also, in reality, a deeply powerful and influential person with a lot of status and reputation and importance, but he runs from that identity as well. He takes comfort in being this secondary identity, which in his case still holds power, but nonetheless is of a lesser position than he was, with less responsibilities and a place where he can escape all that he hates about his true life. And I think that comparison is actually very fitting for this episode, as what is this episode for these two than a revealing of their true identities. For Lolan, she has been in the Shisui identity for a while now, for pretty much the entire time we've known her properly. And now this episode, we see her in her quote-unquote true identity. And for Jinshi, he ends the episode acknowledging, I knew this was always coming, but now it is time. I shall become once again who I technically truly am, the Moon Prince, Kazuigetsu. With this episode, we are seeing both of them in front of us, stepping back into their original identities. But beyond those two, there is still plenty going on here. We have Suirei, who interestingly enough, was originally Shisui. It certainly says something that Shisui is the name that Lolin took for her false identity, to the point that Mao Mao even acknowledges that vocally. Suirei as a person is in a very unfortunate spot. She is the half-sister to Lolin, the older sister to Lolin, but she is treated by Shenmei as the equivalent of a bastard child. Despite being a legitimate heir to her father's bloodline by being the child of someone officially married to him, she is the child of someone that Shisho actually married, it would seem, or at the very least officially was with. And yet when Shenmei returned and sort of reclaimed her position as the true official matriarch of the family, Suirei and her mother were forced to be nothing but servants. It's something that I'm very curious what Shisho's opinion of that is. Did he merely let that happen? Did he agree with the choice? Is he himself, despite technically being the leader of the clan, more so also controlled by his wife? It's hard to say, but ultimately in the case of Suirei, it does not matter much, as she is put in this position of the unwanted child, the abused half-sibling, despised by the matriarch of her family, where prior to now, it was hard to say what exactly Suirei's role and position in everything was. We now can confidently say she is also a puppet. She is someone used and abused whose only choice, basically, other than running and testing your luck at surviving on your own, was to submit to your abuser and do what they wish you to do, which in this case is commit treason, to rebel against your country. Suirei is deeply intelligent and capable and willing to do a lot of these things, but it is all born out of the fact that she is being controlled by Shenmei. She is not in a position of power, she is not in a position of influence, she is a spy, a tool for Shenmei. It seems like the only person who really has truly cared about her at any point is Lolin. We see brief flashes of child Lolin and Suirei, with Lolin comforting her, it would seem. And it's with this that I think it very much explains, for both of these two characters, these two half-siblings, why they acted the way they did in the past couple episodes. For Suirei, she is more of a reluctant follower of all of this. She does not necessarily agree with everything that's going on. We haven't broken through to see what her true beliefs are, but at the very least it is clear to me that the reason she has done everything she has is because it is what she was told to do, and she didn't see another option. She has no personal wish to antagonize Mao Mao, to rebel against the Emperor. She will acknowledge, Mao Mao, you are our captive, you are a hostage, don't be so casual with us, but she will not directly attack or antagonize Mao Mao. That's why that was the case. As for Shisui, it's because she was clinging on to these opportunities to be herself, a normal person. That strange tension from the last few episodes, where nobody was acting like Mao Mao was the hostage she was, is because nobody wanted to treat her that way. It's just what they had to do given their circumstances, at least in their minds. It truly seems the only actually antagonistic person here is Shenmei. In the absence of Shisho, who we ultimately still don't know exactly how much he is involved in this, Shenmei is the de facto leader of this rebellion. She is the one at this stronghold. She is the one commanding Suirei and Shisui. But it seems, regardless of necessarily her intent for this rebellion, regardless of if she was the one who started this plan, regardless of any of the grander schemes, it seems like she has a much more personal goal as well. Shenmei is a cruel, bitter, angry woman, it would seem. She is sadistic in many ways. She is abusive constantly to everyone around her. She seems to only really think of herself. As soon as Lolin lied about Mao Mao actually being older and that they had accidentally stumbled upon some kind of immortality drug and with enough time they could replicate it, I knew that Shenmei is a vain woman who is desperately clinging to any beauty she has. Viewing her own beauty as something more important than the lives of others, it would seem, honestly. It's something that seemingly controls her motivations quite a bit. She was going to have Mao Mao beaten to death, basically. But the moment that she has the inkling of a chance of an immortality drug, she immediately forgoes any punishment. She keeps Mao Mao imprisoned and forces her to work on it and gives her harsh deadlines, which is in line with her personality and attitude and actions, but it shows where her motivations lie. She is a deeply vain and self-important person. Almost certainly if she had a hand in the beginning of this rebellion scheme, it is because she personally believed that she is more deserving of ruling this country. That is the vibe she gives off to me. And this is actually where I return back to Lolin using the term, the ugliness gets worse. It's not just saying that her mother becomes more aggressive and angry, but also she physically is aging. She cannot escape her own nightmare of growing older and her beauty fading. She seeks this potion of immortality to cling on to that, it would seem. But moving on, beyond them, beyond those three family members, we also have some stuff about Kyo-u. Much more understated than everything else, but Kyo continues to be a relevant character. We get a few tidbits about him in this episode, mainly relating to his family. We hear from Suirei that he is the son of someone named Shiro, someone who, based on their name and the way they're described, implies that they are part of the Shi clan. But then we also learn that his mother is someone who seemingly is in that same room with all of those seemingly drunk and drugged people with Shenmei. It's not exactly clear who exactly in there was his mother, but whatever was going on there does not seem great. It seems like Shenmei is keeping all of those people drunk and drugged for some purpose, even if it's just to keep them stagnant. And those are sort of the two main things we learn about his family, but we don't ultimately get a lot of conclusions or answers about what this exactly means for Kyo-u. There's a moment where he's almost going to say something to Mao Mao, but then runs off. Inevitably, he is a character who will have further influence. Perhaps he will be the means at which Mao Mao escapes again. But ultimately, we'll have to see. But I think the last thing I want to touch on for this episode is the interesting interaction between Lomin and Lacan. We already had established their relationship partially before, which, if I'm remembering correctly, is that Lomin is Lacan's uncle and is one of the few people who actually sort of helped Lomin traverse life and figure out how to deal with the fact that he couldn't really see people's faces. And then, of course, there's the other aspect that Lomin eventually takes in Mao Mao. So it's interesting to see this interaction now, because it's the first time we've really seen these two interact. And it's very interesting to me because the vibe it gives off is that Lacan, someone who is stubborn, tactical, incredibly intelligent to the point that very few people can keep pace with him, let alone make him do things they want. He is completely willing to listen to Lomin. He respects Lomin, it would seem. He immediately backpedals the anger he was directing at Jinshi, tries to convince his uncle that he wasn't doing anything wrong. There's a respect there, and he wishes to keep the respect of his uncle, it would seem. And on the other hand, Lomin is not a schemer, he is not a manipulator, but he knows that Lacan respects him, and therefore says what he needs to convince Lacan to do what he thinks is the right thing. Lomin is someone who respects the current hierarchy. He's someone who does not try to go against the current status quo ever. So when he sees Lacan shouting at someone so influential, he does not say the reason you are doing this is bad. He simply guides Lacan by essentially saying, think before you speak, consider who you're talking to, this is not a way to act. Which directly leads to Lacan, instead of just getting angry that his daughter is missing and this person in front of him can do something about it and they're not, to instead respect the hierarchy, kneel down and bow, and make a plea for someone from the royal family to do everything they can to stop this rebellion. It's not that grandiose of a moment until Lacan is kneeling down and making this plea, but I find the interaction leading up to it to nonetheless be very interesting because it is informative. It's something we haven't really seen prior. But with that, ultimately this episode, in a lot of ways, is still nonetheless a setup episode. There's a lot that this episode has shown and taught us about the characters, but ultimately, this is the calm before the storm, if we can call it that. War is coming. The armies are to be roused to stamp down this rebellion, and Jinshi is going to step into his official identity, and we will have to see what the consequences of this are. If they can manage to get to Shenmei and Shisho's stronghold before Mao Mao's time is up. That is ultimately where we are. There is a time limit on how long Mao Mao can stay alive and unharmed by Shenmei, and we do not know if they will manage to get enough time to survive before they either have to escape on their own or be saved by the oncoming army. But on the other hand, there is also the fact that war is messy. Things can get complicated, and it's possible that if an army raids this stronghold and it's just all-out conflict and warfare, an individual soldier won't recognize Mao Mao. They wouldn't know who she is. They'd just think that she's someone from the stronghold. So it is entirely possible that in a worst possible timeline, Mao Mao could be attacked by one of these soldiers. Things are about to get messy and complicated and much grander scale than we've ever gotten before, and I am here for it. But with that, we will have to wait until next week to see what comes of this. So for now, feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, leave a comment on your thoughts, and I hope you all had a great day. Goodbye!